Sophie, welcome to the show and thank you so much for being here. I'm really, really excited to be able to talk to you because I think not only is your journey one that is going to be super inspiring for people, but what you've learned through that is so needed that we share these lessons. Um, Obviously, the main thing that is kind of your mission right now is healing people naturally through nutrition. So we need to get into that, like what that means and how we can do it. But I think to give context, if people don't really know who you are, would you mind just sharing with us a little bit about your journey and what led you to doing what you do now?
Okay. Firstly, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to have this conversation with you. So who am I? Well, my journey really started 6 years ago when I was rushed into hospital with acute abdominal pain. I had been suffering for about 4 years before that with what they labeled me as chronic fatigue, always tired. I had two small children, two little girls, but I felt like I was more tired than that would make me. And I had loads of tests and nothing ever came up, so they just labeled me with chronic fatigue. When I was pregnant with my second daughter, I had pain on my left side, and they just kept telling me it must be where baby's lying. And I was adamant there was something wrong with my kidneys or something because I couldn't stand up at some points, like without sticking my fingers in my side. And no tests were done or anything. They didn't test me for diabetes or anything. And I was drinking about 10 litres of water. And when I reflect back on that, it is clear signs of actually what was going on within my body, because then fast forward to 2018 and I had her in 2012. I was rushed into hospital with this real acute abdominal pain, and it was in the middle of the night. I just woke up with it, and I was a single mum at the time, and I knew it wasn't just like something I could ignore. And usually I don't know, I would have just took a paracetamol and got on with it because I've got two small kids by myself. So I ended up ringing 111, and I ended up getting an ambulance and being taken into hospital. And when they first got me there, they thought that I had gastritis and they were going to send me home with gastritis. And my mum had come at that point and she was like, absolutely no way you're sending her home. She would not be like this if it was just gastritis. Like, I know her, you need to keep her in. And thankfully they did. And the next day, the sonographer came to my bed and they were looking for gallstones at that point, which were on the other side of my tummy. And I was like, no, it's over the left side. You need to move over to the left side. Anyway, the sonographer looked at the nurse as she was rolling it over there, and she was like, we need to send her straight for a CT. And I was like, please tell me what you've just seen. And she said, you've got a really large mass next to your spleen. Looks like it's in your stomach and your pancreas as well. We need to go and get you for a CT immediately. We need to assess what this is. So it turned out that I had, at that point, a 10 centimetre tumour in my pancreas, which had engulfed all of my spleen as well. At that point, they didn't know what it was. There's just this massive tumour in there. Because I was then sort of facing perhaps cancer, maybe having my stomach removed or bypassed, having my spleen taken out, the majority of my pancreas taken out. I then got sent to a different hospital where the pancreatic specialist is, which is Blackburn. And I was kept in there for 4 weeks while they sort of monitored it and did a bit of testing. And I also, this is one of the decisions I may have made differently if I had done the research I had to do. But I got fully immunized before they took my spleen away. So I had to wait for 2 weeks for them then to do the operation after that. So once it was time to have the op, my tumour had grown to 15 centimetres. And they went in keyhole. It's about a 10-hour surgery, took everything out. Luckily, I didn't have any of my stomach removed, which was a possibility when I went in. But following that, I ended up becoming more poorly when I came out of the operation because my bowel never started again. So I then had to have another surgery 2 weeks after that, an emergency one, to have my small bowel removed through, and then part of it was taken away because it had completely died. So what happened was I had neuroendocrine cancer in my pancreas, which is a slow growing cancer. So for it to be 15 centimeters big, it had been there for years.
Wow.
And it was in my endocrine system. So it was caused by like hormonal levels being out. And my relationship with my girl's father was awful. So my stress levels were really high, which was creating this monster inside me, basically. So that basically sent me down this massive healing path, which I either had to choose was going to be full of medication, or I researched and looked how naturally I could heal myself. So I'm sat here today talking to you with just the head of my pancreas left, no spleen, some of my small bowel removed, and I don't take any medication because of the route I went down. Don't get me wrong, sometimes I do still have trouble. I have, particularly with the section of small bowel that I have removed, because it's just scar tissue now, which means that a bowel opens and closes like quite dramatically. Really, it goes from about 1 centimeter to 3-4 centimeters as food moves through it. Well, I have a rigid section where food, we can't do that, so that limits my diet because things get stuck, and that's what causes me issues now. And that's something that is, I'm going to say, man-made. It's from surgery, so I can't heal that naturally. Do the best I can by feeding myself, so if nothing gets stuck. But that's where I'm at with that.
I just want to jump in there, Sophie, if I can, because I mean, there's so much that I want to talk about. And the first thing that comes to mind, and I know there's people that are on this call now listening to this interview, and I know I've got my own experiences with family members and so on, where it's really, really hard to know who to trust. And I know you've kind of just gone through there, like, there's a lot you've just said there in a really short space of time, but actually that living and breathing that was that was a huge thing you went through. And I just want to go back, if we can, to kind of like when what you were saying is you had to fight to get the doctors to truly realize you had this massive tumor. Like, they were happy to just send you home. And I want to be mindful here, you know, it's not about doctor bashing or anything like that. I think from my understanding and my experience, I feel like people that are nurses and doctors and so on, you know, generally, I mean, there's always exceptions to rules and everything, but they are doing the best they can with what they know. They are usually overstretched and they're struggling and so on. But as the people whose lives are actually dependent on them decisions, and what you're displaying there is you and your mum had to fight when you had this tumor that had been there for years. What's your sort of thoughts on that today in terms of advice for people? Because most people would just accept what the doctor says, and who knows how that could have ended for you, right?
I think it was a real case of mum knows best. Like, I think if I was in there on my own and the state I was in, I probably wouldn't have had the energy to fight with that decision, and I would have been going home in a taxi because I got sent there in an ambulance, so I wouldn't be able to drive home. And that's scary. Like, that had already been missed for so many years. I had symptoms of that for so many years, but it was never looked into that much. And I think perhaps my own body has played part in that, though, because when I had the blood test, when I went into A&E, so I arrived at Royal Preston Hospital via an ambulance at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was left on a bed in a corridor till 9, till somebody saw me with a can of gas and air by myself. So that is like they were extremely overstretched, but I was like pretty much on my deathbed in a corridor. But when they did the blood tests, none of the indicators were showing that I had something that I did in my body. It was like a silent assassin in there. It did not want to be found out. So and I suppose the symptoms that I was showing, so I was being really sick, but they were pumping me with morphine because the pain was really bad. So that was making me sick. But then that's what they said I had was gastritis, and that was what was making me sick. So it was all a bit of a comedy of events happening. Do you know, like it was a bit of a circus when I went in there, and only when they actually got me sort of stable in the hospital bed, and then thought actually we need to have a look at what this is here, was when they found what they found.
I think it's
And
really
obviously,
important. Like, what I take from that is just to say to anybody listening, like, if ever you feel you want a second opinion, or if ever
oh
you are, in pain or whatever, like, please don't stop, right? Do
yeah,
fight to get better answers if you don't feel you're getting them.
yeah, definitely. I mean, even now, when things obviously because I've been through so much, although my mindset is very much that I've got over that. I can get over anything really. But if I get the slightest bit of a niggle somewhere, it sends alarm bells in me because I didn't know that that was there. Do you know? So bit part of me will always be frightened that something else is going to sneak up on me, even though like one shoulder says that, the other shoulder say, no, don't be silly, Sophie, you can get over anything. I always want to know more about what's happening. I want when I go into my or when I was going into the appointments with my surgeon after it, I wanted to see the scans. I wanted to see what I was talking about. Have a look. That's your body. Like you can even ask for all of them on a CD, on a disc, so you can look at them yourself at home. But we're
But
not
people
told
wouldn't
any.
know that, right? Because, yeah,
Oh
as you
yeah,
were saying, then we're not told that.
no, not at all. So yeah, it's just being more aware that you sort of have control of it, and if you don't think it's adding up, then ask for another opinion or ask to see it, or even when you get given the information, ask for more. Do you know, like we just sort of leave it as, oh, the doctor said this, but we might go out of the room thinking, but what does that mean? Do you
Right.
know?
Yeah,
You
don't be
need to keep
scared, because
relevant.
you're right. Often doctors can use terminology and words that you might not understand, and I think it's quite a British thing, isn't it, to just be like, oh right, okay, you've got no
Yeah.
idea what's been said. So it really is just taking a moment to actually say, hang on a minute, I don't understand. Can you explain that? And I think that's so
Yeah.
important. Talk to me about the mindset back then, because I mean, can I just like ask, how old were you at that time when you were told you've got cancer?
um so it was in sixth, so I was 31.
So you're
And
31, you've got two
yeah,
young children, and you're told,
yeah,
that there's cancer here. It's 15 centimeters is the tumor. And I've seen some of the footage and so on that you share on socials, and it's very easy to lose sight just chatting through it now, all these years later, of just how horrendous that must have been for you. And yet
yeah,
you
yeah.
still fought on. Can you just talk us through, from a mindset perspective, how you got through those times?
Yeah. I became an observer of Sophie. That sounds really weird, but I detached myself from me. Um, as soon as I found out something was in me, that made me detach myself from myself, if that makes sense. And when I can remember, like when they'd call my family in, and because they were talking about really serious stuff, so in the morning when they came to talk to me, the doctors or the surgeons or whatever, they'd say, right, this afternoon we need to make sure your mum, dad, brother and partner are all here because I need to talk about this today. And so everyone would get, and that, in those conversations I would be like sat observing it all. It wasn't really as though it was about me. And when the term cancer was sort of battered about, I never became it. I think people become cancer, like, and when you are, so every cell in your body only listens to your thoughts and how you are and your mindset. So if I then started thinking, oh my God, I have cancer, it's going to kill me, everything would react to that. And I didn't. I did the opposite. It was never going to kill me. I was going to come out of there. I do have two little girls to live for, and we've just got to get through it. And it was horrendous. I mean, it was just literally like the worst thing ever. The nights are the longest things in the whole world when you're in hospital, and I was there for 9 weeks. I even got put. I got After I'd had my operation, I was on intensive care for 4 days, and I got told I'd only be there for one. So I knew I was more poorly than they were expecting me to be when I came out. And then I got put on a ward, and people were coming down from their operations, sleeping for a night and leaving. And that in itself is like, why am I not going home? Why is no one telling me I'm getting better and I can go? Why has no one said this? You're going on Friday, Sophie, do you know? And that started to get to me a lot, because there was no answers. Nobody knew what was wrong with me after my operation. And that's why I had to have that second like emergency exploratory. We don't know what's going on. We're going to have to just go in and get hands-on in there, because we've no idea where your bowel's not opening again. And then I got put in my own room because I'd become that poorly. And one afternoon, my surgeon got everybody there, and he said, Sophie, we're not going to let you die here. And I thought, oh my God, they've actually been thinking that might happen to me. Do you know, like that thought hadn't really crossed my mind. I wasn't going to die, but they'd all been thinking that I might. Do you know, it was just wild, but I just managed to keep myself, I don't know how, but on that sort of positive, no, I am going to get out. I had booked a holiday to Ibiza that summer. I'm going.
I mean, how much do you think the mindset, I know obviously nutrition's a big part of what you talk about and what you attribute to the healing, but how much would you say the mindset is? Because what I'm hearing is that mindset was very much, I am not the cancer, you know, it is separate to me. I will get, but you know, I've booked a holiday to Ibiza. Do you think that genuinely is really powerful, your thoughts and how that affects your body?
100%. Yeah. 100%. Like, I was visualizing myself on that beach. Do you know, I wasn't visualizing that it was going to end up anywhere else. That's where I was going. And although in my coaching with my clients, I obviously delve into the nutrition a lot, it has to go hand in hand with that mindset. You can't have one without the other. And that's really why we came up with Eat, Pray, Self, Love, Leanne and I, because we sort of marry all those things together that you need to create that healthy life and sustain it.
Let's talk about that then, because I want to, and obviously something you speak about is that food is medicine. So I'd love to hear a little bit about what are the things that you learn on that journey of, obviously you went down this whole route, I guess, of really researching nutrition and health. And really, I'd love to do a bit of myth busting, because I feel like it is getting more and more confusing for people when there's so much information out there, and as they call it, bro science, and all these PTs talking about macros and this, that, and the other. What are some of the do's and don'ts from your personal experience where you think, stop listening to this, this isn't useful, and instead, what should we be doing?
Yeah. Okay. So for me, really, everything is overcomplicated. The healthiest people and the healthiest bodies eat really simple nutrition, like single ingredient foods. Don't overcomplicate with lots of additives. Definitely don't eat anything that's got preservatives and, you know, is ready-made food. Like, cook yourself from single ingredient foods, and that is like key. To prevent disease within the body, and to also get rid of disease in the body, we have to create an alkaline environment. An acidic environment is what disease thrives in. So that is your alcohol, sweets, crisps, you know, all of the sins, if you will, that everybody loves. And we all sort of go, oh, I can have one packet of crisps today. Do you know, like, or one chocolate bar? Well, if you are in a disease state, then you need to get rid of all of that and just eat really simply. The other thing that I think is really toxic is the supplement world. Like, it's totally overwhelming. There's just so many supplements, and it's totally unregulated, and a lot of them not necessary, and a lot of them your body doesn't assimilate with anyway. There are simple supplements that I would recommend you take, like sea moss and bladderwrack, which contain the whole 100 and up to 102 minerals that your body needs. Shilajit is one which regulates your hormones. There's a lot of sort of what's the word, like influency stuff about those two things on social media, isn't there? But I genuinely think that they are really good supplements to have that are natural, not man-made or made in a lab. Alkalis in your diet, not drinking tap water. Water is really what's the word I'm looking for? It's really important. And if the water that you are in is in your intake is not whole, it will then draw the nutrients it needs to be whole from your body. So you could drink 2 liters of water that has not got everything it needs in it, and it will dehydrate you, not hydrate you. So that is so important.
So what's the best quality water? Where do we go? How do we get it? I've heard people speak about as well, if you're going to get bottled water, it needs to be in a glass rather than plastic, right? Would you agree with things like that?
Ideally, yeah. So what we have at home is called a mega home, and it is basically looks like a little Dalek. You put in 4 liters of tap water. It will boil it up like a kettle. It comes to the top where it condenses it, and then it precipitates it into a glass jug. What ends up in your glass jug, though, is completely empty water. So it has nothing in it. So it would dehydrate you to like the max if you drank that. You need to then add your electrolytes back in there. I add Celtic salt, lime, and some electrolytes into the water. So it's perfect. And then inside the machine, the mega home, you can see what it has taken out of your tap water, and it is disgusting. All of the crap that you can't see, but you can see once you've done that, and it's horrible. I literally
just that one thing is massive. If people just take that, what you've said there, it's going to make a huge improvement to the health.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if you suffer from things like headaches. Yeah, because that is generally down to dehydration, poor skin as well.
What about, you said alkaline? What about actual foods that are high, that are alkaline? Just a lot of people will be like, I've got no idea. So have you got any guidance on that?
Yeah, so some of the things we eat are daily, like cucumber is really alkaline, full of water as well. So if you like to juice in a cucumber is really good for you. Fruits that contain seeds. So if you know, because we're in this like consumer world where things are made for our ease, the easy peel satsuma that has no seeds in it anymore also has no nutrients, because when things have seeds in them, they have the nutrients that they need to reproduce, which is the nutrients we need when we're eating them. So stick to things like melons, like honeydew melon is so good actually, and it also helps the body create its own natural collagen, so it's really good for your skin. And because they've got a really hard shell, it is hard for those nasties to penetrate that. So inside it's like filtered and perfect for you. So cucumber, melon, limes, eat from above the earth, not below the earth. So although we love potatoes in this country, and sweet potato is quite a faddy thing that people like to pick sweet potato fries over normal chips, only thinking they're being healthier. They are full of starch, and starch is not great within the body. So try and go for like butternut squash and things that are above the earth instead, courgettes, things like that. I don't eat meat. It's not something that I would tell clients to do. Like when that's a bit wrong. When they first come to me, clients, we do take meat out of the diet because I literally simplify their diet immediately, and we get rid of inflammation, and we get rid of the excess fat and water retention, all of that, and that is by stripping you right back. But we do then add in good quality sources of meat if you can eat meat. I can't, because of that section of my bowel that's rigid. I just can't eat meat, so it's not for me. However, that's not really impacted me in any way. In fact, my body was in better shape before I had a baby than it was when I was a gym goer, only eating feta cheese, chicken, and broccoli. So, like, I totally flipped my diet and only eat carbs now, and my body was in better shape for it. But I do think that perhaps some people, some people's bodies love meat and all of that side of diet, and some people's bodies love the veggie side of diet. And you find that with clients, like sometimes the bloating is unreal when they start eating loads of veggies, and then when they eat meat, it completely goes.
One really
I've
interesting thing that I think you've touched upon there is that there's guidance, but the most important thing is everybody's body is different, right? And I think the
yeah,
most important thing to say to everybody listening is it's about doing your own research. It's about listening to
yeah,
conversations like the one that we're having here tonight, but not just stopping there and not just taking everything you're saying, Sophie, on face value either. Like, go and try different foods and research those foods and what impact they have on your body, and see what agrees with your body and what doesn't, and what makes you feel good and energized and healthy. I think the main thing that we're saying is, don't just accept what you've maybe been doing or been told. Like, your health has to be a number one priority, right? And it's your
yeah.
responsibility to learn about it.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, everyone's different. And I think if you delve into that further, it's basically because of what the biome, the microbiome in your gut, everyone's is different. We've all been made from different starts in life. And what my gut bacteria want is not what the next person's gut bacteria wants. So you'll have a different reaction to it. And none of this we're taught about, but you need to, this sounds really cheesy because I'm talking about guts, but just go with your gut instinct. If you know that that isn't for you, then don't do it.
Yeah. What about fasting and juicing? Where do you stand on that, and what's been your experience?
So I wouldn't be here, I don't think, if I hadn't gone down the fasting route. So 1 year after all of that happened to me, I then went into an appointment and was told that I had secondary liver cancer, and I was shown the CT, like I said, he showed me it. All section 8 of my liver was completely black. There was conversation, we need to get you into an MRI as soon as possible so that we can decide what we're going to do. We're going to burn it out or chop it out. There's things we can do. I'm really sorry, Sophie, you're going to have to go through this again. And my whole world fell apart. Like, I couldn't believe it. Pancreatic cancer, only 5% of people survive. And then liver cancer, secondary especially, usually gets everyone else that it not got in the first place. So I was sort of faced with this, oh my God, it's going to happen to me this time. So I
So
came out of
was the
that.
mindset different that time? I mean, just take a minute, everyone, to just understand that 95% of people that get that die, right? And
Yeah.
then you said you had secondary that then, as you say, usually gets everyone else. Where's your head at that point? Was your mindset still like, we're gonna fight this, or was there a massive feeling of doubt at this point?
Um, I was in disbelief really, because I'd literally my first experience of having cancer was I was really ill. Do you know, like I was rushed into hospital with a pain that was unbelievable. I was really poorly. I knew something was there that wasn't right. I'd skipped into this appointment, this 1 year appointment, and literally like beautiful sunny day, and like beaming, smiling, and I knew as soon as I walked in the room that something wasn't right, because my surgeon, who was become really friendly with me by the end of the 9 weeks, and with my partner at the time, and their faces were not smiling back at me. So I sort of had a little inkling that something was coming. Was not expecting it to be that. I had a really good cry and just let it out, like the emotion of it just wash over me and let it out. And then got home and just was like, right, I am going to have to do whatever I can now in this short space of time. I had 11 days till my booked in MRI, where they were going to decide what they were going to do with me. So that's when I fasted. So I literally had green alkaline juices. I think I had about 6 or 8 of them, small ones a day, and I did 4 coffee enemas a day. So a coffee enema is one that you do at home. It's just literally a bucket and a tube. You boil the organic raw coffee, which is 4 enemas. You can't drink it. And just let that go in your back passage itself, and it literally clears you out. But because it enters the gut lining, it then goes through your kidneys and your liver as well. So it literally cleans your insides out. So I did that 4 times a day. I was absolutely starving. It wasn't like the best experience. I was so hungry. I can remember being at my nephew's birthday party, and there were some oranges or satsuma things in the party bags, and my daughters were there, and I literally sucked them because I was so hungry. But I knew, like, my mindset was I have to do whatever I can to get through this.
And
So
just
there
to
were two.
understand as well, what was the thinking behind it? What were you thinking you were doing by,
Oh,
not eating whole foods, by having these small juices, and by using the enemas? Just talk us through what that was doing.
okay, so when we fast, our body is creating every day trillions of cells, which are reproduction, or cells reproducing themselves. Okay, so these cells are made from our intake of food, our water intake, our stress intake, our environment. So in order for us to reduce the rate in which our body creates cells, if you fast, it goes down to barely minimum. So your cell production starts to reduce. So if you are creating disease, that you've slowed that right down by fasting. Also, the biggest stress our body goes through 24/7 is digestion. So if we can stop the body having to digest food within the tract, it can then spend all of that energy it would have done digesting, repairing. And when we go through that repair state, we have to break down. The body has to be fueled by something, and it's not stupid. So it starts to break down all of those bad cells. So you basically can rid your body of disease, but your mindset has to be so strong to get you through that. I mean, it had I not got the result I'd got, I would have just carried on going until I'd got the result I needed,
You were
which was
so
that it was
determined.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talk us
Um,
through that then. So it was 10 days, is that right? And of the
yeah,
fasting and the juicing.
so I had 11 days till I
11.
had an MRI. And then on the 14th day, I then got a phone call from my surgeon. And I panicked because I thought, oh my God, it must be awful, because he never rings me personally. You usually just get an appointment letter and go to your next appointment, and then you get told your results. And he just said to me, it was before the bank holiday in May, and he said, Sophie, I just want to let you know, so you can enjoy your bank holiday, that your MRI came back clear. And 2 weeks before that, he sat me down and told me that I had secondary liver cancer. So, like, who knows whether it was my mindset, what I'd actually done, but the whole protocol had given me the answer that I needed, and that was whatever it was about to happen to me was not going to happen anymore. So yeah, I don't think I would be here if I'd not done that.
I mean, that's just insane, isn't it? What I mean, when you think about when a doctor says what they say about the cancer, most people
Mm.
would never go away and do what you did. And
No.
from the mindset, from nutrition, I mean, what was the nutritional advice you were actually given by the professionals?
So I've just moved house, and I literally found this leaflet and I read through it again not long ago. And when I came out, of my first operation, I only have the head of my pancreas left, and I got told I'd be type 1 diabetic. I've never read as being diabetic since I've had that operation, and that is down to my intake of food and the approach that I've had after it. But this leaflet that they gave me, although I did lose a drastic amount of weight, and I'm not very big anyway, so I came out a bit skeletal. The advice was more on getting calories in me than it was about actually what I've just been through. It was a generic, you need to eat this to gain some weight, basically. It said I needed to suck on boiled sweets during the day. I needed to have sugar and cream in my drinks,
What?
put cream into your foods. So your pancreas doesn't only, like regulate produce your well, it doesn't produce your insulin, but it regulates that. And it also creates the enzymes that digest fats. So if I was having all these fats, I literally can't digest them because I'm not creating that. So I just couldn't. It's mind blowing. It was like eat crisps like Wotsits, because they will just sort of become nothing once they've gone in you, and like no actual nutritional advice to build you back up to being healthy. Like, instead of having cream and sugar, I had avocados and coconut milk, and quite a lot of the stuff, the route that I went down was very Caribbean. A lot of the healing foods are originated from over there, and that's the sort of the way I went with it. But yeah, it was wild what they told me to eat.
It's just
And
insane.
the food in hospital itself, mind blowing. When you're on a ward with people who are all diabetic, I mean, some of them came in and they were literally like Homer Simpson yellow because they were so poorly. But then the cakes trolley comes around, like twice a day for 11s and 3 o'clock. And you're like, wow, these people need fresh juices. They need fresh vegetables. They need good supplements. It's just mad.
Yeah, I really hope people are getting the message tonight. It's something I'm really passionate about. I've had first-hand experience. One of my aunties, bless her, died from pancreatic cancer, and
Oh, really?
what you're
So,
saying there about her being yellow, it's sort of like her eyes were yellow, her skin was yellow.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was awful. And again, and I've had, unfortunately, I have been there in hospital a lot with loved ones that have died, and exactly what you're saying there about, I mean, just infuriated me. It's like, what are you doing, bringing in fucking cakes, for fuck's sake?
yeah,
It's disgusting. And
yeah,
but that's part of the passion behind doing this show, really, is to have these
yeah,
conversations. Please, every single one of you, do like do critical thinking, challenge the norms that we're told that this is what you should do. I think,
yeah,
from my understanding, and of course, let's caveat it by saying I'm not a trained doctor and so on. I'm just sharing my research and my lessons of life, and me
yeah,
doing critical thinking. But doctors, surgeons, nurses, they're only taught one thing. They're not taught to look at the whole lifestyle, the nutrition, the full package. Surgeons are there to cut you up, and they're really skillful and bloody much needed and brilliant at that. But it doesn't
yeah.
mean they're right about everything else, right?
No, yeah, 100%. I mean, when I've been to my I got to my bowel surgeon, because when I ended up with this liver cancer situation, also something started happening in my bowel as well. But the type of cancer I had attacks your bowel when it starts. So another part of my bowel started to die as well at the same time. Anyway, that ended up going, thank God, too. But my bowel surgeon said to me, when I was asking him for some advice on nutrition, what he would recommend, he said to me, Sophie, I am a plumber. I am nothing else. So he literally couldn't tell me any nutritional advice. He just literally does the plumbing, and that's it in there. But also, I don't feel like the nutritional advice, like there is a nutritionist on the ward, like comes around, talks to you. I had gone vegan in hospital anyway, just to try and reduce the acidity within my body. And she just couldn't have a conversation with me. There was no vegan food. In 2018, they gave me, the that cheap mix that you can get for your freezer that's got like square carrots, peas, and sweet corn.
Yeah. Yeah.
A plate of that. That's what I got given. And thankfully, my partner at the time, he was bringing food in for me when I could eat before my operation. But it's bad. But if it was different, we wouldn't be reliant on them, would we? And that's the trouble. It's not about making us well.
Right. And I
That's
think
that.
there's a whole conversation there, right? Which
Yeah,
opens
I
up
could
a
let
whole kind
you talk
of,
for hours of that.
yeah. Sophie, I'd love to hear. I know we're sort of running out of time. I want to be mindful of time for the Q&A with our members as well. But a lot of people that listen to this show are women who also have children. There are also a lot of people who are entrepreneurial and there's coaches and PTs and things like that. And not only have you overcome so much adversity and healed yourself, through all your own research, but you are now running your own businesses. You're doing the venture with Leanne Brown, who's your business partner, and the retreats that you do and all the incredible work that you're doing. But you're also a mum. You've also got your partner, your relationship. And I'd love you to just tell us some of the realities of like balancing all that. Like, what are some of the things that you do to make sure that you can stay on top of everything and make sure that health is still a priority, and your self-care?
Yeah. I think I'm fortunate that my partner literally just goes along with everything I suggest. Like, so a great night for me, but wasn't expected after everything that I've been through. Like, I've created another life, even though I've not got all my organs. And it was difficult, and I have found excited to get a little bit more. That's because I'm older as well, who knows? But they've not seen them when we go through it all. That's been harrowing for them, really. But with Aria, she's never had sugar. She's not. It's made me look into myself, and she sort of fits to this healthy lifestyle that we have, I suppose, and that's been bringing a baby into it. What do I do with this brand new fresh baby? Because I feel very differently about the world than I did before.
I love that. Sorry, I think my connection just broke down there. Can you still hear me okay? Yeah,
Yeah,
you still got me.
definitely.
Brilliant. All right. All right. So what I'd love to do now is just jump into some of the general life questions that I ask all the guests that come on this show. So the first question, this show is all about empowering people to live happy, healthy, fulfilling lives. So if you
Yeah.
was to leave the listeners with three life lessons, three things that you would share to say these are kind of rules to live by or kind of a path to follow, what is three pieces of advice you would give everyone today so they can live a happy life, a healthy life, a fulfilling life?
Make yourself a priority. I think I got myself into that state because I never put myself first. Definitely find what makes you happy. Like, you only go for it. Yeah, I truly all of that illness, like happiness. Definitely wasn't there before. So yeah, do what makes you happy.
I think there's a lot to be said. It's been a theme, I think, is the mindset, is the thoughts that you have, and
Yeah.
reducing stress, following things that bring you joy and happiness. I think is so important. Sophie, you are such an inspiration, and this has been such an amazing chat, conversation. So just thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your journey and the lessons you've learned from it. If anybody's heard about you for the first time and maybe wants to follow what you do and see a bit more about you, where's the places they can follow you online?
So my Instagram is called Baines_, and of love with Leanne Brown as well, who is just, we have been sisters in another life. Definitely. Um, I get loads of DMs daily about advice, and I try and answer everybody. So yeah, if there's anything I can help with.
Amazing. Sophie, this is brilliant. And we're going to obviously hand over to the Q&A with our members now. But before we do, the final question that I ask all guests, what is your personal definition of success?
Surviving. Definitely.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much, Sophie.
Thank you.